Hello everyone, this is again Koji from Celestial Rhythms. Well, there's a crazy week ahead, super dramatic it seems to get as we get into August 8, 9, 10. Lionsgate ahead, 8/8/2020. And in the Mayan calendar we're right in the core column, the core days in the dream spell calendar, which is the most intense time of the 260-day sequence. So what you see here again is the big dam in the Yangtze River in China, the Three Gorges Dam. And I just want to start off with this picture from Google Earth, which shows you that there's no straight line here anymore. That kind of was since 2018 reported. Seemingly the dam has been slightly pushed off its foundations, so that's already been very concerning for quite a time. Now, you all know there has been excessive rains in China for the last few months. That whole monsoon season is extreme. We have seen torrential rains come down. It's a 50-year flood, I guess the first time since 1949, since modern China was founded. We have those extreme water levels. Many rivers have made historic marks. I have already published 2 videos. I will mention them below in the comment section on that subject of the danger I see coming in that area, China in general and the Three Gorges Dam in particular. And I found this site here. Let me just see. It's this one here, right, which has a live stream which shows you the webcams, 2 angles, and this is the weather systems present, and there's lots of rain going on here. Again, it was a few days quiet in early August, which made me very hopeful that hopefully it would be averted, that whole catastrophe. And this here is the latest marks. The blue line is the level in the dam at present at 159.2 meters. Which is not very high, as they probably expect lots more water to come, so they have kept the outflow here quite high at 33,000 cubic meters per second. At present there are about 6 of the 22 gates open, sluice gates, to release water from the dam up there. There's in total 22 sluice gates. However, the more they open, the more extreme the situation gets downstream. So it's a juggle naturally in this situation how much they will be able to release before the big rains are coming and bring the water again up in the basin. The green line is the proposed inflow, which, as you see, has been kind of stabilizing around 27,000 cubic meters per second, but that can shoot up quite dramatically once these waters from these rains, if they keep going, will be drained into the pond, the basin. So this was another video which I found. Actually, I should say, since I first alerted people about the dangers ahead, I have been watching. When I first started my research, I barely could find any actual coverage on YouTube about this whole looming disaster. Now there's plenty of other YouTubers out there who are sharing up-to-date information like this one. So I was very pleased to see the focus getting stronger, people becoming aware of that imminent danger, and hopefully many people were able to displace themselves and evacuate in time. Still a few days, hopefully, to get away from that main impact zone. So what is interesting, that this gentleman noted that at night they now turn the lights off on around the dam, so nobody can really see how much water they're releasing through the sluice gates. He thinks way more than they report, and I guess which is not really a bad thing, to keep the levels down as much as they can ahead of that next big wave of incoming waters. And I mean, there's always the dangers of earthquakes or big mudslides, which there have been many of in this area already. So overall the situation is quite critical, very critical, pretty much as I predicted. It would kind of all come to a peak around August 9 or 10. So I want to now go into the astrology. I want to show you one more image here. I did some research on that. So here is the Three Gorges Dam, which was built between 1994 and 2006, fully operational starting 2007. That's now 13 years ago. It's amazing the synchronicity with the Jupiter-Pluto cycle, which I pointed out in my second video. It was started, that project, under a heliocentric Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, was first coming onto being fully filled and put on power production in 2006-2007, pretty much centering around that last Jupiter-Pluto conjunction heliocentrically. And just a week ago, on the last day of July, not even, there was another Jupiter-Pluto conjunction heliocentrically. Now since then, since 2007, when this mega project, the largest hydroelectric dam on our planet, when that was fully functional, in the meantime there have been many more dams being constructed. Here you see a lineup. So my biggest fear is that one of these upstream dams might fail and then release a tidal wave down the river, and this will be so unexpected and so powerful that it will knock the whole thing out of its foundations. Anyway, there's, as I showed you that picture here, there are rumors that there's no real connection to the bedrock. This dam just was built with huge concrete blocks onto the sandstone, as there's seemingly no real hard rock underneath. So that was probably one of the biggest design flaws in that project, among many others. If you do some research, you will find even the Chinese Congress, who is kind of only not really representative, but only 2/3, which never happened before in history, voted for that project in 1992. Almost a third either abstained or voted against it. So many engineers have walked off their jobs during the construction period, and it has been pretty much since day one a very controversial project. Also has created much havoc environmentally. You can all find that. So if we get through this crisis and into the new time when free energy will be released, we know that's around the corner. Soon all these dam projects will be taken down. and we get back to the natural river patterns. It will take probably a few decades, but so this might be the last big dangerous time we are in for things like that to happen. So now let's get into the astrology. And again, I'm wanting to start here quickly with the Chinese chart, which shows this really difficult 8th house. The 8th house, the house of death and transition and huge changes and challenges. And first I want to say the sun is in the 8th house, and then there is Neptune and Ceres and the south node here in a very tight conjunction. China had many big floods. Neptune naturally is the planet which is related to water. Ceres and Neptune together, that is not a nice combination. That can show that over excessive amount of water. And I want to just point out, keep in mind, this is the 15th degree of Libra, where these planets are at the south node in the 17th. Now I want to throw in one more connection here, which is the comet NEOWISE. It's now no more visible by naked eye, but it's still affecting many things here on planet Earth, as comets do. They are wild cards. They throw in new challenges, new opportunities. I have talked about NEOWISE before. In general, my assessment is it's waking us up to what has been going on this planet. It's an alarm clock, and interestingly enough, it has a very powerful alignment with the Chinese chart, and I'm just showing you this now. So here, this is NEOWISE discovery chart, and you see the sun at that time in March 2020 was exactly opposing the Chinese sun. This in itself, as I mentioned in my earlier video, is a very difficult chart as such, with the sun, dark moon and Chiron here in Aries. And then there's also Mercury here conjunct Nessus, which has to do with all kinds of calamities and catastrophes and abuse and pathological behaviors and such. So there's a whole lot here in this chart. It's not just about China. It just seems that China is really in the focal line of what is coming out of this comet's manifestations. I have here the discovery chart relocated to the dam, and remember the 15th degree of Libra, where Neptune and Ceres is in the Chinese chart. That's right here at midheaven. And we see also here, let me just see what else I wanted to point out here. Well, naturally, Juno is here. Juno is the people. It's all the many people who are affected by this. So there is right, this was the other one I wanted to point out here. That is Saturn, right, and then the ascendant, right, on the galactic center. Okay, that was my focal point. I sometimes forget what I wanted to mention here, so I can right away say it without having to search too much. anyway, there's so much going on in these charts, sometimes hard to remember. So the ascendant here at the galactic center, 2709 at this time. It's a very slow moving position. It's due to the precession of the equinoxes. So let's go back to the Chinese chart, and this is now an overlay just quickly of that. Inside the Chinese chart, again the sun at 7:46, and outside the discovery chart of the comet. Then I just want to here skip through these charts a little quickly. This is the relationship chart I was calculating, the exact midpoint between the discovery of the comet and the Chinese nation's chart. And again, the 7 degrees, now the right angle cross, but in midheaven, midnight position with Earth down there. And then here the 15 degree Aries rising. I will just show you why this matters. That is a very difficult degree in the Chinese chart. This is the one I want. Okay, come on. Right here. See, that is 13 degrees Aries. That is opposing that Neptune and Ceres in the Chinese chart here, close to the dark moon to Earth here, the north node aligned with the dark moon. This in itself shows you the very difficult path the Chinese nation has been on pretty much since day one. This is a really difficult chart in general. Also with that Mars Pluto here in the 7th house, and I just want to point this out already. On the 9th of August, the sun, the transiting sun, will be exactly dead on conjunct Pluto, which is the planet of big changes. It's power in excess, also transformation and death and rebirth. All these themes are circling around Pluto. Pluto also being compared with Lord Shiva, who is coming in to take everything down, to clear the ground for something new to be put in. So yes, this is again, as I say, the 14th, 15th degree of Libra now here at the 7th house cusp. So there's something going on there with that Neptune, Ceres. This is now, excuse me, the perihelion chart for Beijing of the comet. That was on the 3rd of July. That was the exact moment when the planet was closest to the sun, when it started releasing its energy into the inner solar system. And again, we have the 14th degree now here of the other two cardinal signs, which would square that 14th, 15th degree of Libra. What stands out in this chart is this one here, the black moon. That is the mean apogee of the moon, meaning the spot where the moon's orbit is farthest away from Earth, which constantly is shifting and changing. It's a 9-year cycle around the zodiac. The mean position is the black moon. We have also the osculating apogee, which is the true apogee, which waves around that axis quite wildly. It can be up to 40 degrees in a month, waving from one side to the other, almost like waves. It's that waving pattern. However, the median is the black moon, around which all these waves are swinging. So the black moon, in my research, has proven to be a very powerful focal point of darkness, if you want, of problems. It's the deepest trench in the ocean where all the unresolved and unprocessed emotions are gathering in that sense, and whenever that point is touched, then that is stirred up and brought into the collective field of awareness. So with the equatorial ascendant, which is the ascendant on the equator for that location, which is the 116th longitudinal meridian on Earth's globe. So this means it's what is occurring in this place on the Earth, how it will affect us globally. So whatever happens there in that context of the comet will be having global repercussions, bringing suffering and pain, distributing it all over the globe. Naturally, when a catastrophe of that magnitude will hit, we will all feel it very strongly. There is no question. I mean, there's up to 400 million people who could be affected by a breach of that dam. This is the midpoint chart between the perihelion for Beijing and the nations chart. What I want to point out here is this degree, the 13th, 14th degree of Virgo. And let me just quickly go back here to this chart to show you what is hiding there in this place in the Chinese chart. Here we go. That is where Saturn is in the Chinese chart. Saturn, Lord of Karma, bringing the hardship, the big issues which finally make us evolve. Saturn is the great teacher in many ways. So Saturn at 1308 in the Chinese nations chart, keep this in mind for a moment. And if we now go here, this is the perihelion chart and the Chinese chart's midpoint. August the 2nd, as we edge closer to this. No, let's look at this one first. That's now the same chart. Okay, no, that's now the next one I want to show you. That's the perigee of the comet. That was the moment when it was closest to our planet. So the perihelion is when the comet came closest to the sun, and 20 days later it had its closest flyby with Earth, and that is now calculated for the location of the dam. And again you see the 13th degree of Virgo rising, and the 13th degree of Pisces has Ceres and Nessus very close by. That in itself is the signature of that big flooding, of that disaster. Ceres bringing water in abundance. It's also Earth responding in a way. Ceres, named after the Greek goddess Demetra. It's just a Roman name. Ceres, Demetra is the same one. So she had a daughter who was abducted, Persephone, by Pluto, by Hades, and for that Ceres goes through repeated spells of retreating herself, of not sharing her gifts anymore, of mourning and suffering. So Ceres has that dark side to it. Nessus again is all kinds of disasters, difficulties, pathological behavior, abuse. So this is very ominous, to say the least. That was the moment the comet was closest to Earth, calculated for the dam's location. Okay, now we're getting closer. This is August 3. This was the last lunar return for the Chinese nation, and again you see the 13th degree of Virgo here. That's again where the Saturn is of the nation. That's ominous in itself. Speaking of that period between August 3rd and roughly the end of the month. Now if we go to the next chart, that is now when Neowise the comet entered the sign of Libra. Now let me quickly run you through this. When Neowise the comet is in a highly elliptical orbit, so it came in from long ways, always being pretty much in the same area of the sky, which was around 21-23 degrees Libra. As it then came closer about 2 years ago, it started wavering around this area, and then as it came really close into the inner solar system, it was going retrograde for quite many months till it became stationary direct as seen from Earth in the 29th degree of Gemini, and since then has been going direct in the sky again. That's due to Earth's motion versus the comet's motion. That's why planets can appear moving backwards through the sky. Neowise the comet was closest to the Sun here in the very first degree of Cancer, which happened to be the same spot as we had that huge eclipse of June 21st, which was an ominous sign in itself. Whenever eclipses happen in the 0 degrees of cardinal signs, this has global impact. The last time we saw that was in 2001, June 2001, just a few months ahead of that catastrophe, calamity, atrocity, which definitely changed the course of history in big ways. So that is kind of another really ominous indication that this comet has a very dark message to deliver. A couple or 20 days later, when the comet then was closest to Earth, it was in Leo at 21 degrees Leo, and it has been moving really fast in that segment of time, or the zodiac, however you want to put it. It was in Leo roughly between let me get that right, I guess it was something like July 10th to 20th, roughly in that period, and then it was in Virgo for about 10 days period, and just entered Libra on the 2nd of August, will be in here for roughly 2 weeks again before slowing down, getting farther away, and eventually in early 2021 be so far away that it will just kind of stay in this area of the 11th, 12th degree of Sagittarius, and then disappear for thousands of years again before coming back. into the inner solar system. So what I want to say is this time the comet is back in the sign where it came from, is kind of closing the circle, if you want, driving its message back home, if you want. So this is an indication that this window will be the most intense of its manifestation. And it so happens that around that time, which I predicted, the 9th or the 10th of August, NEOWISE will be at 17 degrees Libra. Now remember, that is the south node in the Chinese chart. The south node is a difficult spot as such, as it's kind of showing where we are coming from. It's what we are to resolve and get exposed and resolved, I should say. So then the next chart I want to quickly look into is the event chart of the 9th, and then we call it for now. I will keep up with my next one very soon. Just wanted to give you the bigger picture here. So this is then the event chart of when the moon and the black moon will be conjunct on August 9, which is also where Mars will be, and this is a very difficult conjunction to start with, and there's a few other things which tie into that. The Pluto-Jupiter conjunction has an exact square with that point if you take the midpoint here, and well, I keep it at this, and stay tuned. I will give you an update tomorrow or after tomorrow. Thank you again for joining and listening, and keep praying that we can avert this tragedy. It's not really necessary, it's not in anyone's interest. Hopefully we all will wake up without that happening, but still I want to show you there is a real danger that something of magnanimous proportions is possibly occurring. Thanks again. Enjoy your life anyway, and pray and love yourself. Things are getting better, even though we might have to go through some dark times before we are there. Okay, see you soon.